Hey, what's up? Today was good. It's a Friday night. It's a Friday night, and I'm not out with people, and that is okay. Like, I think I've been giving myself a hard time every single weekend since I've moved here. Uh, like 2.5 months ago or whatever it's been. I think I've been giving myself a hard time for not hanging out with people every single weekend night, like Friday and Saturday night. I have been torturing myself with the fact that I haven't been going to bars with a big group of people. And I don't understand why I do that to myself. I mean, I do understand. I mean, I guess I could. Let's talk about why, I bet. Um, Buddhism. God, I hate sometimes when I hear myself speak, but there's this idea in Buddhism where I sound like a weird, fucking pretentious asshole sometimes, and I hate it. And so anyway, uh, there's an idea in Buddhism, and that's really negative. I don't know. I like to think about things, but sometimes people who think about things can be annoying, and I don't know. You can't have it both ways. I'm thankful that I do think about things a lot, but oh shit. At the same time though, it can be a little much. It's like um Buddhism, there's this idea that you're suffering because you want things, right? You're suffering because you compare yourself to other people or to your previous self, right? You compare yourself to an ideal, right? It doesn't matter how you conceptualize the ideal, but you do that, right? Basically, if you're a Buddhist, the idea is try to surpass holding yourself to an ideal, right? Try to kind of outthink, or I mean, I don't know if it's outthinking, but try to come to an understanding that you are a flawed animal that pursues goals, and that your brain makes you depressed when you're not hitting those goals, right? It forms these goals, and then it makes you have an emotional reaction until you're constantly at the goal. So you're constantly in this state of struggle, right? And you're never just happy in the present moment, right? And maybe that's a cultural thing. I mean, I guess that's a human thing, right? That's an evolution-based thing that is only made worse by our culture, right? Because now, you can hop on your computer. I listened to this talk the other day, and he talked about the idea of a computer and the infinite potential of a computer, right? And he's saying, with the correct input of buttons on a computer, you could rule the world, and that is so true. Like the stock market, email, social media. If you entered the correct permutation of buttons, there exists right now a permutation of buttons on a keyboard that could send nukes off. Maybe it's buy Facebook ads with propaganda, and in two different countries that both have nuclear capabilities, like Russia and the United States, and make propaganda that, maybe it's not Facebook, maybe that's using every platform out there. But anyway, there's an idea though that you could either rule the world or destroy the world with a computer, right? So it's okay, cool. If you bring that back to Buddhism, right, these extremely powerful tools, right? Everyone knows that the goals that they're trying to achieve, they are the potential of a person with a device like this puts that goal way out there, right? So it gives you all of this room for just depression and comparing yourself to an ideal, and I don't know. So I think that anyway, very long rambling rant about computers and Buddhism and depression. But anyway, I think part of the reason why I have been giving myself a hard time is that I've been holding to myself to this ideal idea that I have to go out on Friday and Saturday nights, because in Rochester, Friday and Saturday nights were, let's go to the bar, let's go hang out with friends, and let's go do something. Even then, though, I was still unhappy, right? There's nothing wrong with being alone. There's nothing wrong with being alone. And once you accept that, then you can go and be with other people, right? And so today I took some steps to accept that, right? I went to a bookstore. I went to Barnes & Noble because there's a guy from work named Henry who, he's gotten me into reading again. And I don't know, reading when you're an adult and you have so many other interests is so much different than when you're a kid. And all you want to do is read fiction about the dragon, and what's the dragon gonna do? I had this teacher in middle school, and he would always he thought it was so funny that kids at the end of tests, they would rush through the test, right? Then he would put this voice on, and he was like, everybody rushes through the test because they're always like, what's the dragon gonna do? Is the dragon gonna win? And so he would find, he was a science teacher, and people would rush through his science test so that they could read their novels, right? And he always thought that was funny. Anyway, reading as a kid is a very different experience than reading as an adult, and I think I've come to really like it. This is a book called Everybody Writes, and I have a theory that most likely, and I could be wrong, but most likely 99.9% of the content that's in this book could probably be applied to YouTube. And I'm assuming that if you use this book in the context of YouTube, I bet you can make a really dope fucking YouTube channel. So I'm reading. I want to, attack this book with as much energy as I can, because I'm not saying I'm going to memorize everything inside the book, but I definitely think if I spend some time thinking about ideas about how I can use that book to apply to YouTube, it definitely could help me. Because, whenever I sit down to write a script, or whenever I sit down to write anything, a storyboard for a video, it is one of the hardest, most daunting parts of the entire job, right? So getting more knowledgeable about that, and I don't know, there's that Robert Kiyosaki idea that, if everybody got good at two things that are kind of surrounding the thing that they're trying to be good at, they'd probably get way better, right? So basically the idea that, doing improv probably elevated my ability to do video production, right? Because I could be on camera and probably be an actor and learn to speak with confidence and learn to listen when appropriate. So anyway, I was in a bookstore today, and I sat in the bookstore and read a book, and I stopped giving myself a hard time saying, I need to go and be with people right now. It's no, I can just read a book. And as soon as I did that, I opened myself up to this world and this environment, and I just wasn't happy to be there. And then I hear this dude talking to this woman, and he's throwing out so much information at this woman, and she just wants to escape the conversation, you can tell. And so I look over, and this guy is kind of old, and I just I saw myself in him a little. He was speaking with this energy and this excitement, and he was talking to this woman about the Roman Empire. And so I walk over to this guy and I introduce myself. I'm like, "Hi, you seem like a really interesting person, and I overheard you a little bit. My name is Noah." And he tells me his name is Gordon, and he seems so genuinely excited to talk to someone else. And I don't know, Gordon is one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And he's like, what do you want? Do you want to go grab a beer or something, or maybe we can get some drinks or something? I'll get your number. We can, meet up some other time. I'm like, Gordon, do you want to go get a cup of coffee right now? And he was so excited, and he's like, yeah, sounds great. And he's like, oh, I drink my coffee with honey. I've never met someone who does that. And so I was like, okay, I'll try it. So we sit there, we go get Starbucks coffee, and we sit down and we have coffee with honey, and I start talking to this man. He's about 75 years old, and I don't know, just a really awesome person who seemed really lonely. And he told me about his entire life, right? He was born in a northern state. I forgot which one it was. I think maybe Ohio. And then he moved down here when he was really young. He joined the military after high school, and he was in the paratrooper brigade, right? And he told me this story about how he would jump out of these towers, right? Apparently, in the training in the 50s, you would jump. If he was a paratrooper in the 1950s. He would jump out of these towers, and there's a string on you or whatever, and the string is connected to the small chute, right? And then the small chute pulls the big chute out of your pack, right? And so he told me this story about training on these towers, and he would jump off the towers, and he was responsible for packing his own chute, right? He said it was a silk chute, and they put rubber bands on it, and as the chute unfurled, the rubber bands would fall away, and then he said they redesigned the chutes, but they didn't do it anymore because it was so easy to machine gun the paratroopers out of the sky. And then after he was stationed in New Jersey, and he visited New York City, and he really loved New York City, and he talked to me all about New York City and how he would go and see Birdland was the jazz club that he would go to. And I know about Birdland because I listened to Buddy Rich, right? And so there's some Buddy Rich at Birdland tracks, and there's videos even of Buddy Rich playing the drums. And we talked about jazz, and he said his favorite instrument was watching someone play Spanish guitar. And I don't know. And then he told me all about his experiences doing cold calling and doing door-to-door sales, right? And he would do real estate. He would do commercial real estate, and the way he would do it would be he would knock on the door. He would say, "Hey, I want to do business with you. I either want to sell you this place or sell your place." And just the coolest guy ever, and he shared, and that was another point of connection that we had where I was talking about, hey, I was doing cold calling when I was trying to get a job, and we both loved that, and as soon as we had that in common, it just seemed like it seemed like me as a 75-year-old man, and it was very strange, and he's talking about how he was always wanted to go and travel the world, but he's never left the country, and I asked him what his biggest regret was, and he said that his biggest regret was that he didn't take more risk when he he said social romantic risk, no, but business venture risk, right? He said he never started businesses that could have one day been successful had he worked harder or had he taken the chances. And I don't know, just a really, really cool person. And it made me so happy, and it made him so happy, and I got his email, and I think I'm going to try to, I think we're going to have dinner or something someday, but it's weird, it's weird because you read all these books, and I watch these videos of these people talking and having these human conversations, and it's like, you can have that with someone in your world, all you got to do is put yourself out there and introduce yourself and say hi. And it's weird, it's weird to introduce yourself and have coffee with a stranger, but I know more about that stranger that I met and had coffee with for an hour and a half in a Barnes & Noble Starbucks coffee shop than I know about 90% of the people that I've met here, right? I know him better than half the people at work, or 3/4, or 90%, I don't know. And then, I don't know, just such a cool person. So, I don't know, go talk to old people in bookstores.